HBO's The Last of Us is a smash hit and one of the best shows on TV right now, and a big part of that is thanks to the stars of the show. Ladies and gentlemen, Joel and Ellie themselves, Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. The big finale of episode 5 is extremely bleak, but leading up to that, there's the incredible sort of Kansas City set piece. You've got snipers, you've got monsters, you've got trucks flipping over, you've got explosions. What was it like filming that sequence? How long did it take? What was the general sort of vibe like making that?
I loved that sequence. You hated it.
Hit it, Bella.
Well, it was 3 weeks of nights in the end, in Calgary. And the nights were actually, when did we shoot this? In like the spring? So the nights weren't even that long. They felt long, but they weren't that long. And it was epic. I think that's the good word for it.
They were long enough.
Right. You barely did any. You did like one
I know.
Yeah, Bella, you're like running around and dodging stuff, and Pedro, you're kind of sitting pretty up top.
I'm like perched up on the. That's right, perched up in the window and being like, "Oh, this is taking so long."
You're just sniping in a chair. Yeah, that's.
There was no chair.
There was no chair.
No.
Oh,
it's very uncomfortable. I was on my knees.
I mean, those are preposterous working conditions. Obviously.
Correct.
But Bella, you're like, there's a sequence there where you're in a car and you're jumping over the seats and you're hiding under things, and there's a truck falls into a sinkhole full of monsters, and it's pure chaos. So you had to film this at night. There's fire everywhere. Was this stressful, or you said it was just fun? You're just having a great time the whole time? That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it was incredibly stressful, but like in a way that felt amazing. Yeah, I mean, I got so many bruises. I actually got a real black eye at one point. The clickers are dragging like Lamar and Kivon and Sam and Henry from under the car, and I stab him the clicker and he dies. At one point, his as he was flailing around dying, during a take, he accidentally, the poor guy, whacked me in the eye, and I was so proud of it. It was just, I had a great time.
Now this was shot over the course of like 11 months all over Alberta, Canada, among other places. You have tons of awesome sort of outdoor locations. Was there, aside from that big nighttime set piece, were there any sort of sequences in the show that were just especially sort of breathtaking to be a part of?
Yeah, we were there for a year, as you say, and we used, we were on the mountain, by the river, on the lake, in the snow, in the rain, in the sun, on the prairie, on the set. It's hard to identify exactly like which one was more special than the next. They were all, equally challenging and wonderful. And it was always nice to get on the horse with Bella, especially if it was like a nice wide shot so that no one could bother us. We could like turn our mics off and have our conversations and ride the horse. Remember how unruly that one horse was in terms of getting into, and we would have to kind of like, he would be so ready for action, and he'd just have to kind of like spin around in circles. We just got used to it. We're like, all right, do your spin, and then action, and then he would just like walk the line.
Oh wow!
I remember that. That was his process.
Yeah.
Now, did you actually pick up any survival tips, or I guess life hacks in the process of making the show with all that outdoor time?
I didn't learn anything. I refused to learn a thing. I learned that I wouldn't make it.
So as the season kind of unfolds, both of you really warm up to each other, and in fact almost exchange roles of caretaker here and there. How did you sort of develop that between the two of you? Because there's a lot of obviously like hesitance early on where you're keeping your distance and you're like, I don't really trust this person. But as a viewer, you really do pick up after a while, like you're developing a bond there. Was that something that came kind of naturally in making the show?
I mean, apart from the fact that we deeply despise each other, it was pretty good. Right?
You don't know what good acting is.
Girl.
Okay, so speaking of HBO, you're both Game of Thrones alums, but you kind of passed like ships in the night. How would your characters from that show, how would Lyanna and Oberyn compare on a road trip through an unforgiving wasteland if they were stuck together? Like, how would that dynamic differ compared to Joel and Ellie?
I'll answer this question since she never watched the damn show. And, you know, first of all, I'll tell you, Bella, that Lyanna Mormont and Oberyn Martell would be fucking besties.
Really? Good.
Oh,
with your
completely.
Swishy cape.
Exactly. Exactly. I'd be twirling my cape around, you know, and you'd be just like, oh God, I love him.
Right.
You know, people think of The Last of Us, they don't typically think musical, but it definitely kind of it goes that direction. You know, no spoilers, but there are Joel and Ellie both perform songs in the second game, and there's sort of kind of allude to that in the season here. In the audition process, did you have to sing? Bella, you're quite musical, and Pedro, you regularly break out in song in interviews, from what I've seen.
If I had to sing a song for my audition, I would not be sitting here today.
What would you have sang that would have made it so specifically you wouldn't have gotten the job?
I guess if I had to choose a song, it would have been La Bamba.
I could see them being like, that doesn't really fit with what we're doing here, but...
Para bailar la bamba. Para bailar la bamba se necesita una poquita de gracia.
See,
you got the job.
Mm-hmm. There you go, breaking out in song in yet another interview. Bella, what about you? I like Ellie plays the guitar. She sings. Is that something that we might see from you later on?
I mean, possibly. So I did a self-tape, and then I had a Zoom with Neil and Craig, and I made a point of positioning my laptop in a place in my room where my guitar was hanging up in the background, just so they know, just so they knew.
We got some questions from some fans who love the show. TW Last of Us on Twitter says, did you take anything from the set, something that you liked so much and you thought about taking it home? So he wants you to admit to a crime. Did you steal anything?
I don't think I did.
Oh, man.
Did you?
I don't think I did either. I did one thing, but I can't say.
What?
You heard me.
Can we get a hint?
Do I know about this?
Is it a crime?
Yeah, you know about it.
I have no idea. You're gonna have to text me after.
I love this. We get teases of secrets, but not the. I mean, that's sort of the problem with The Last of Us. It's not like, I don't know. It's not like being in like a epic fantasy show where you're like, ooh, I want a sword. It's like it's a bunch of really beat up stuff. Like everything's like kind of dilapidated. That's fair. Now, Chai Jarin says from Twitter, did you guys play any pranks on each other throughout filming? If so, what were they? I could see both of you doing that. That seems like the kind of thing that might have happened. Pedro, what about you?
You played a prank on me.
What'd I do?
And Anna. In
episode. Yes. One time I scared the out of Bella and Anna Torv. They were being such little kids on the set while we were escaping the QZ, and they were so scared, and they had to go through this big tunnel, kind of like sewage, sort of like drainage kind of tunnel thing. And basically they were in there and being like, this is so spooky. And I took the opportunity to scare the out of them by going, whoa! And it echoed, and they screamed at the top of their lungs, and I hadn't been so happy in my entire life.
Well, thank you both so much for joining us. New episodes of The Last of Us air Sunday nights on HBO. Joel, Ellie, it's been a blast. Thanks a ton.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.